Wow, we got a full house today. Took me a minute to be ready to walk in because I had to figure out how to turn this mic on. I was making jokes to myself as I was coming over I almost missed coming over. I was sitting at my desk working away. My exec is downtown at an appointment, and nobody came and said, "It's time to go." So I was thinking, you know, when you make SES, you kind of lose your brain, so to speak. Now I have no excuse to make for the GS15s, but when you make SES. Hey, I was a GS15. I can make jokes about the GS15s. So, you know, I'm actually excited to be here today because we've got some cool stuff to talk about. And what most of you don't know, and I've never said out to you, to this group, is I'm an introvert. I am an introvert's introvert. I mean, really, at my core, I am an introvert. I would just as soon be home, not talking to anybody, not being in front of anybody, and I'm comfortable. I can get up and talk in front of a group, but I'm more comfortable at home just by myself. I don't even want my wife around half the time. And the kids are gone, so that's good. But as I was spending the last 30 or 40 minutes just kind of reviewing the slides, we have some exciting things going on here. And so I am actually really excited to kind of walk through these. And this will go pretty quick. We won't spend a lot of time. But one of the things that was identified in our DOCs from last year was you wanted to know more about our strategic planning efforts and where we were going and vision for the future. And so we've covered some of that before, but we're going to cover it in more detail here. And we've made a lot of progress in the last 8 months, I would say. And so I'm excited to share that with you here. And before I do that, though, I hope everybody had a chance to see the slides that were kind of circulating before I came in. You know, what a great team. What a great team. We have folks that are excelling across the board. And so let's just give everybody that was on that list a round of applause. You know, as a senior leader, stop and think about kind of the state of where we are. And I was thinking about that as I was preparing for this. And you know what? My time with AFCEC goes back to when AFCEC started. You know, I was one of that first 30 people, and there's not many of us left, just a few, that were here at the very, very, very beginning. And so I kind of have a sense of kind of our highs and our lows and where we were in between. And I really, truly feel like we're climbing and we're heading to a high. And I'm excited about that, and this is a big part of that. So let's kind of go through this. So, okay, next slide. So this is an important slide, and I just want to talk about this for a minute. This kind of maps out the roadmap of where we've been over the past year, the journey that we've been on. And I'd particularly call your attention to the 3 strategic offsites that we've had. And I've talked before about, you know, when I first moved over to this job, we could have had an offsite right away. That was really hard to do because I was doing both jobs at the same time, so I couldn't really do that. And we were getting ready for a change of leadership at AFIMSC, so kind of hard to kind of start setting our strategic direction without knowing what the new leadership at AFIMSC was going to want to do. So we waited a little bit, but then you get to a point where you just can't wait anymore. You got to get after it. And so we had our first offsite back on the 28th of August. We got a lot done at that offsite. We've had 2 since then, one in October and another one in November. And we're going to have another one here. I guess I've got a calendar meeting tomorrow, and they're going to tell me when the next one is tomorrow. But like I said, they just tell you stuff, and you say, okay, that sounds good to me. So we're going to do another one here coming up in the next month or so. And I say that jokingly. As you can see, we're accelerating our pace, and we're accelerating the implementation of some of the things that we've been talking about at these offsites. So again, I really feel like we're in a good place. We've got objective champions that have been assigned to our goals and objectives. I'm going to talk about all that. We've got an ethos statement, and I'll talk about it, but I'll just give you a glimpse here. You know, we had our DEOX team and our goal champion teams working with all of you, come up with some, and I didn't ask them to do this, by the way. They just kind of just did it, which makes it even more exciting. And they came up with some draft statements of our ethos. And at our offsite that we had, the last one that we had, we put that all together and consolidated it into an ethos statement. And I have to admit I was probably wrong in being skeptical about ethos statements, because I really, really like it. I think it's great. So we've got that done and a number of other things. So we've made a lot of progress. You can see up here on the chart. And I think these charts are available to everybody if you want to look at them afterwards. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We'll make sure they're available.
Make sure they're available, so if you want a copy, you can get them. Okay, next slide. So, some of the things we've done, I said we've got strategic priorities, vision and mission statements. You know, we didn't significantly change the vision and mission, but as we review them here in a minute, I'll talk about them. I think they're the best they've ever been for AFCEC/AFCEC. And I've seen them all. I think they're really good. Finalized our goals and objectives. There's still a little bit of work to do there. I say the goals and objectives are finalized, but the sub-objectives and the implementation part is not. The ethos I talked about, we had a DEOX team. So one of the things I chartered was a full, completely volunteer, independent team of you to look at some of the things that were identified in our DEOX. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. At our last offsite, the DEOX team came in and updated us and told us what they found, and it was very insightful. Implement some low-hanging fruit from that team, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I'd like to continue to solicit input and volunteers to continue that effort with that DEOX team. Now, if you were part of that, you don't have to do that forever. You can drop off whatever you want, but I'd like to see people continually coming and going and providing input on that. We reactivated the Unit Advisory Council, which I think is great. We'll talk about that. And then we actually have a draft strategic plan, which is more than we have. Next slide. Okay, so one of the first things that I have to do as a senior leader is set our kind of strategic priorities. And for me, that was pretty simple. And I wanted to get back to basics. I looked at some of the previous work that had been done. Some of it was good. Some of it was so confusing I didn't understand what it meant. But here's what it was. People, because it's all about the people. And that's, to me, that's a no-brainer. You look at industry, and industry will tell you the same thing. It's all your people make you what you are. You are your people. So people's number one. Number two, civil engineering, and I use that to capture the expertise that all of us bring to the table. It's our expertise in that broad category that we call in the Air Force civil engineering, but it's the environmental scientists, it's the real property specialists, it's the housing specialists, it's the ops guys and the readiness guys and gals. It's really everything that everybody does and that everybody brings to the table. And then innovation. And I'm going to talk more about innovation because innovation was brought up by a number of the teams, the DEOX team, the Gold Champions, and we've got some things on the move on innovation. You'll see something happen here fairly soon. But those are the three strategic priorities. And our Gold Champions build goals and objectives and sub-objectives behind those. AFCEC vision, here's kind of our tweaked vision. Restoring or revolutionizing civil engineering solutions to enhance readiness and increase lethality. So your vision is the big picture, where you want to go. And there's an argument that goes in circles that questions whether the vision or the mission comes first. To me, the vision comes first. And the reason I like this is because it's about civil engineering. That's our business. It's our core innovation, again, whether it's environmental or construction or readiness or housing or whatever it might be, but taking our core capability and finding new, better ways to do things to enhance readiness and increase lethality. That's the tippy point of the spear. I mean, that's why DOD exists, that's why the Air Force exists, that's why we exist, to carry out the President's management agenda and to protect and defend our country. So, that's our vision. And our mission. Our mission is more tactical, more plain-spoken, deliver civil engineering expertise and services. That's what we do every day when we come to work. Strengthening installation and enhancing combat power. That's kind of the core of what we do. So I like these. I think these all go together very nicely. Let's go to the next slide. And just to give you an idea how it fits in, you can see the three goals, our strategic goals, which are people goal, an engineering goal, and an innovation goal, and the sub-objectives that the goal champions developed along with their teams, which many of you participated in. But then this shows how they really support the AFIMSC goals, the AFMC goals, and the Air Force strategic goals. And you'll see if you read those, you look at them, you can see the linkages, even though the words are different and they're not necessarily always in the same order, but they link together. And there's connective tissue behind each one of those things. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And then this is just more detail on the goals and the objectives under each of those goals. And again, these all were developed out of our second and our third strategic offsite and the work that the goal champions did along with all of you, or many of you. Next slide. So I chartered 3 of our directors to lead those efforts. Talked about the goals. As I said, we're not done because we've got to finish working the sub-objectives and the metrics and the implementation, but we've made a lot of progress. Next slide. Okay, here's the ethos. To me, this was exciting. I really like this. I think this speaks to who we are. And if I think back on all of those years and the evolution of AFCEC into AFCEC and to become part of AFIMSC, which is where we are today. And remember, I've said numerous times, I think we can have a culture, an identity that we can celebrate that's uniquely AFCEC, as well as be part of a bigger whole, which is AFIMSC. I have no issue with that at all, but I like what this talks to. And again, the other thing I like is this came from many of you as you work together on the various teams to put these thoughts together. I like the way that flows, but more importantly, I like the words, because I think it talks to the things that are important to us. And again, as I think back over all my many years associated with this enterprise, this reflects what I've always felt. You know, what I've always thought, what I've always felt, this reflects that. It reflects the professional people that we have on our staffs, the expertise, the diversity, and that's not just diversity of gender or religion or ethnic background, it's diversity of thought, it's innovation, it's different points of view. I had one of my mentors once that used to sit in council. He had 2 counselors, you know, first counselor and a second counselor. I've told some of you this story before. But they'd ponder things that they needed to make decisions on, and he'd ask his first counselor, what do you think? And he'd always have something brilliant to say, and it would always be just what you thought it would be, and it was great. And then the second counselor would just say, well, you know, what he said. And then one day the first counselor was gone. And so the leader said, okay, what do you think? They talked about it, the particular problem that they had to solve or to deal with. And he said, okay, what do you think? So he thought, okay, now what would the other guy have said if he would have been here? And that's what he said. And the leader said, That's not helpful to me. I need diversity of thought. I need you to don't just tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me what you think I need to hear. You know, give me a diversity of thought. I might ask Mr. Moriarty, what do you think about this? And then I might ask Colonel Beach, and he might say, well, you could also do this, and it's completely different, and it's completely not in sync with that, but that may be something I hadn't thought about at all. And that's what we need as senior leaders. So diversity is really important. Innovation, excellence, a highly experienced, and certainly, if you look across our enterprise, we've got a lot of really highly experienced people with a lot of expertise. Customer focused, we've always been that. We have always had that characteristic. Integrated team. People are our single greatest resource. We value integrity and courage with conviction. Sometimes it is hard to stand up and say, this is what I think, boss. I have to tell you something about General Wilcox. I really respect General Wilcox because I can go into his office and say, which I have done on at least 3 major occasions, and said, General Wilcox, this is stupid and we ought not to do it, and here's the reasons why. And he respects that and he listens to that. So sometimes you have to have conviction to take how you feel and what you think and share it with others, share it with your peers, share it with your supervisors. So courage with conviction. We are civil engineers, agile skilled warfighters, and we are warfighters, and that's another debate. Some people think we're warfighters, some people think we're not. But in the macro sense, we are all warfighters. We are warfighters supporting warfighters. You may not be carrying, you know, an M16 every day, but we are providing lethality and bite, I guess, what our country has asked us to do. Lethality and readiness, that's warfighters. So we are warfighters, leading the way to naval combat power and lethality for the world's greatest Air Force. So I really like this. I hope you do too. This generated from the people, so to speak, and I think it's really great. Okay, next slide. So the DEOCS working group, again, volunteers, folks who said that they would be willing and able to get together and talk about some of the more, in some cases, sensitive things that we identified in the DEOCS. These folks came to us as the leadership team and told us what they thought, what they found. A few of the ideas are listed up here. They're not necessarily easy, but those are relatively easy things to implement. We're going to do those. You'll start seeing those here in the coming weeks and months. These folks won't necessarily, unless they want to, be on that team forever. They can come and go as they please, and we will solicit input from others. If you'd like to participate, let us know. Okay, yeah, let us know if you'd like to participate on this. Purely voluntary, an out-ramp if you've had enough and you want to go do something else, but it's been a great team, and I really value and appreciate the input from this team. So, next slide. A few of the other things that they identified that we're going to tackle and have started on in some cases. Next slide. Unit Advisory Council. You know, we've had a couple of activities here. I had a lot of people come to me last summer and throughout the course of the year saying, you know, we used to do all these activities and we don't do anything anymore, and you know, it'd really be nice if we could do some activities again. I had quite a few people that came and made that comment. And so in kind of peeling back the onion on that a little bit, I learned that, you know, been a small group of people for a long time, many years in some cases, that have been involved on the UAC, and they were kind of getting burned out, and the organization has grown. We got a huge monster of an organization, and folks felt like, the leadership at the time felt like we'd be better suited allowing each of the directorates to kind of do their own thing. But when you do that, you start to lose your identity as an organization. So people might have felt they're part of CZ, but they didn't feel part of AFCEC. And we talked about the importance of our AFCEC identity, and that is important. So we felt like we needed to reinvigorate the UAC. Well, we've done that. Sue is taking, is Sue here today? Sue is, where's she at? There she is. Sue, I think you've taken a job over in Security Forces Center?
Yes.
Awesome. You know, that's great. But guess what? There's an opportunity for somebody else to step in. No, it is great. I have never, I always feel like it's good for people to advance and move and do something different. And Sue's been with us for doing great work for a long time, so I fully support her move to Security Forces Center. But that's an opportunity for somebody else to step up and participate on the UAC or other bodies. And I really would like to throw out the challenge to you to get involved. Get involved. Let's not make it the same small group of people carrying the load for everybody over and over and over and over again. Consider participating and volunteering for a year, and then we'll let somebody else come in, and then we can let somebody else come in. So please think about that and get involved. We've got some exciting things coming up. Like to see more participation here. I can't do this one. This one is you. I can encourage and motivate and help with resources, but I can't do that one. But that has to be all of you. Okay, next slide. So what have we got going on? I've mentioned both of these. The DEOCS working group. We'll continue to consult with them and invite them to share their thoughts and encourage them to continue to dialogue with all of you. Again, we'll provide opportunities for people to come and participate or to quit participating depending on workload and your own personal situation or interest. I'd like to keep that active and ongoing. UAC, same thing, keep it active and ongoing, encourage participation. That's got to come from you. So hopefully you'll be fired up and excited for that as we plan our 2020 activities. Strategic planning effort, continuing to press with the goal leads and some of the more tactical implementation of some of those goals and objectives, so that'll continue. And then we should be refining here at our next offsite that we'll be scheduling in the near future and publishing, hopefully in the next 3 months or so, our strategic plan so that we can get that out to everybody. Okay, next slide. I talked about that. Next slide. Okay, there we go. So that's an update. Again, had hoped to do this probably the first part of December, but just logistics made it impossible to do that, so I wanted to do it as soon as we reasonably could after the holidays. I hope everybody took some time over the holidays to take some time off, enjoy some time with family and friends, and kind of get your batteries recharged. It starts up hot and heavy here in January, and you know the pace of the activity here at AFCEC is much greater than it has been in previous years. It is constant. It never slows down. There's always something happening somewhere in the enterprise. So I understand that and appreciate that. So hopefully your batteries are recharged. You're ready to jump in and have another great year as we move into the new year. Okay, that's all I had from a formal presentation perspective. So I'll take a few minutes now to answer any questions that anybody might have. Let's just see if there's any questions.
Sir, there's been some talk about an innovation office. Could you expand?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I need to talk about that. So one of the initiatives was innovation, right? One of our main objectives, one of my strategic objectives. We've been doing a lot of work on that. We've got a PD that is in classification right now. In the near future, in the coming weeks, you'll probably see something coming out of Mr. Clark's office at the DS asking for volunteers. It'll be hopefully classified at the GS-14 level. So that means that I will entertain either GS-14s or GS-13s for a temporary promotion, not to exceed 120 days probably, to help us kind of finish fleshing that out. And then we'll try to fill and establish a permanent innovation office, and we'll start with that and build from there. So still some questions to answer about where does it exactly sit in the organization and what other resources do we put against it, but we'll start with somebody in charge and we'll build it out from there. So thanks for bringing that up, Harvey, and we'll have that call for nominees going out here soon. Somebody that's fired up and wants to be engaged. If we get a number of people, we'll put together a panel and make a selection based on the panel's recommendation. Okay, good question. Any other questions? Anybody? We'll just kind of go around like this. So, over here. Yes?
Would you like to share some of your personal thoughts on civilian development education?
Yeah. So just participated in a telephone call yesterday on CDE with Ms. Balkas and Ms. Estep. So we've done, the last several years, we've done really well with civilian developmental education. And this year, the cycle is a little different. It's been moved kind of forward. So we are right now just kind of in the throes of working through CDE. It's really important. And, you know, if you want to develop your career, then you've got to participate. It doesn't just happen automatically. So last year, for the first time, they used MyVector as the tool rather than doing it manually with the forms. They had a lot of problems with that, and they were still trying to adapt it to work as they went. So just like it's typical of personnel, right? So this year they're saying what a great success it was, even though it kind of sucked last year. But it is better than it was last year, and they're continuing to improve it. But we will use MyVector again this year. So I encourage you, if you want to participate in CDE, we had a lot of selectees through the program, but you got to participate if you want to be part of that. Now, some of the other initiatives that have been identified from the DEOCS working group and others are equal opportunities for training and conference attending and TDY. So some of that is this, but not all of it. I mean, that's kind of a related but somewhat separate. There are other things that aren't covered under CDE that we'll address. But for the CDE portion, if you want to participate in the things that are covered by the Civilian Developmental Education Program, you got to play. You got to participate. It won't happen unless you participate. So you got to get into MyVector and get your resume and do all that stuff. So please get involved and participate. I'd love to see us get even more selectees this year. All right, good question, thanks. Anything else? Go back over here, work my way up. See lots of smiling faces, people waiting for me to get to them, hoping I don't zoom back in on them. Over here.
One point I'm asked to kind of
sure.
Comment said, sir. Tomorrow, conference room 5127, we're going to have at 1000 hours, we're going to have a teleconference as well as a meeting. Mr. Evers is going to give us a few words talking to civil development education. But we've also got a valuable team, the CE curriculum team from AFCEC coming in. They're going to talk to MyVector. Some changes that things they've done is critical. If you can't be in conference room 5127, I have shot out, I'm not sure if it's gone out, but there's an email that gives you the slides, gives you the telecom bridge. Please try to get together with your subordinates, your supervisors, as a group, so you can kind of group talk about this whole thing, not just an individual, and kind of really get ready. I would tell you, since 2017, we've doubled. We've doubled our number of selectees and civil engineers. And it's not because of any one individual's efforts, it's because of senior leader involvement, because of supervisor involvement in you. It's an investment in y'all. We are the benchmark on which, if you'll see the slides, AFMC themselves has copied how AFCEC is doing the vetting and the looking at how we develop our packages and we compete. We're not talking about competing against engineers. We're talking about competing against all functional areas in the Air Force. And excuse my language, we're kicking their butts. Okay? So really want y'all in there tomorrow, please. Good luck.
Okay, yeah.
I just wondering if there's any updates on like a building renovation project?
You know, I haven't been updated on that for some time, so we'll just take that as an action item and get back with you. So I can just say, I'll say this much about it. I know when I was sitting up in the front office, we were pushing really hard to get different renovation activities done. And when I moved out, I no longer had that same hammer, and so it kind of stalled for a while, and then it got picked up again, and some of the things that we had planned got delayed or postponed and other things, so they changed the approach a little bit. I know that they have moved out with some phases. I think the phase down in XZ, they've done some of that renovation, some of the RM renovation has been done, but I really don't know where we stand on the other part, the rest of it. You know, building 1650, the rest of the bays, where most of our folks are. So, Dale, do you have any more on that?
Well, sir, just the one thing, they are at work on the 35% design. That's the contract that's currently in place.
Okay.
It's really focused on building one, but and I believe that's supposed to be finished later on this year.
Okay. So we'll try to get some more information and share that with you as we get it. Other questions? Last kind of chance, go around. Yeah, Susan.
We're having the UAC meeting tomorrow at 11 in the room across the way, 115.
Okay.
Want to volunteer or be part of replacing me? Show up.
All right, everybody hear that? Tomorrow at 11, right over here. Please get involved. If you haven't get involved, you don't have to do it forever. You know, go do it for a while, and then we'll shift out and put somebody else in there. But we really need people to participate in. So thanks for bringing that up, Susan. Okay. Round again. Well, thanks for everything that y'all do. It's an honor for me to be part of this organization, and I just see myself as part of it. I feel part of all of you. So I really appreciate what you do, and thank you for what you do and for the sacrifices that you make. And I know there are sacrifices that are made to get the job done, and I appreciate it. So thanks, Carrie.